Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, this week we focus on a busy department in the city of Joplin, Parks and Recreation. If you live in the city or the community, you've probably utilized their facilities or their services, and we're going to find out today about what we have now, what are some future opportunities, and ways that you can continue to be involved in parks. And joining me, Scott Garrie, the Assistant Director of Parks, and Paul Bloomberg, Recreation Director. Thank you both for being here today.
Hi, thank you for having us.
You know, I mentioned the Joplin Park system is a very large system. We think of just city parks, but how do you describe to someone the scope of what we have in Joplin Parks and Recreation?
Well, I think what you have is a really good, vast park system that you know, we are striving really hard to maintain and to improve. And you know, of course, that has its challenges with it, but you know, we're trying to make it the best park system that we can make it.
And of course, parks are places that people may take their family, they may go on their own to relax. But Paul, you have year-round activities in these parks as well.
Yeah, you know, summer's wrapped up, so we're hitting our fall season, and of course, that's kind of our special event season. We do a lot of special events in the fall and in the winter months. So yeah, we have our traditional not camp out, but our hayride at McClellan Park, which is totally free to the public. You know, come out and roast a marshmallow, hot dog, have some hot chocolate, and then go on a hayride through our McClellan Park. Okay. So I mean, we usually get about 400 people that show up for that event. So it's a great, and we have campfires obviously, so it's a nice atmosphere.
Right. So you're coming off of the summer, and of course people think of summer in the pools. Were you pleased with how things went this year at the pools in the city? The
pools went great. This is our second year with Schiffer-Decker pool being renovated, and numbers were great. Pool passes, you know, people were utilizing that because it's a pretty good discount you could get instead of paying a daily fee. Right. And our swim lesson program, you know, people were utilizing that a lot. Same with pool parties. You know, a lot of people don't know that we offer pool parties at every single pool, and it's a great way for the parents to celebrate someone's birthday, you know, or you know, reunion or whatever.
Get a group of people together and have a party. Right? Yeah. You mentioned sometimes people don't know, and I imagine that comes into both of your roles, is trying to get the word out about the park. Scott, I know that, you know, promotions is one area, and you recently did a survey to try to see what people do know about the parks. Yeah,
the survey was a community attitude and interest survey, and we asked a lot of questions, and it was pretty comprehensive, so it did take a little time, but as it was going on, I was actually really enthusiastic about it because we were actually getting a lot of questions over the phone, like, hey, I really want to fill this out. You know, I want to make sure I'm understanding these questions properly. But we asked a lot of different categories about a lot of different needs, and one of those items was, you know, how well do we communicate, and what are some of those areas in which, you know, is it Facebook, is it print media, things like that.
How do you get your information?
Exactly. So that was helpful as well, because we certainly want to be able to improve our ability to communicate our programs and services. So, you know, sometimes you run into people that say, oh, we didn't know you had that, and we want to make sure that people are aware of what we can provide.
Right. I'm sure, Paul, from your perspective, Recreation Director, you want to make sure people know about these programs you're offering for the community.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we advertise through the schools and Facebook websites, but yeah, I mean, we've come a long way in our Parks and Rec department, and with the new technology and everything with Facebook. I mean, it's really important for us to have these avenues to get the word out on, because you know, I started 15 years ago, and the programs we have now, I mean, we have. I can't even count how many we have anymore. I mean,
they didn't exist back then.
No, you know, and so we've come a long way, and we have a great staff and great programmers, and you know, and it seems like the residents like what we're offering.
Right. Now, people who are watching, obviously, this broadcast signal seen outside the Joplin city limits, people might be watching from surrounding communities might ask, well, can we take part in these programs they're having in the city of Joplin?
Oh, sure.
No residency requirement.
No, we don't have that. No, and everybody's welcome.
And of course, the facilities are used year-round, the parks and so forth, by people from throughout the region as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. So, you know, it just kind of depends on what time of year. It might fluctuate on how many of those we have available. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the items on your survey. I know you had a lot of questions, as you said, a lot of different categories. Perhaps, you know, just getting a feel for what people use as you have right now in the parks, you know, the existing use of the parks. What do people say they enjoy?
Well, the survey indicated a lot of outdoor pursuits, and, you know, walking trails. That was pretty much near the top of our list. They enjoyed the pool, but a lot of it was outdoors, which are those things that we provide. So it makes it a little easier to say you enjoy those things when we do provide those.
Right.
But along those lines, you're asking something where this is something I enjoy to do, but this is something I also enjoy to do that we don't
So
have.
we're trying to, how can we fill the gaps?
Exactly. And so what that, along those lines, it actually turned out to be more of an indoor type of facilities, which we lack quite a bit of. We have the tennis complex, but there's just
A limited amount of space for having
limited
something
amount of
inside
space
a building.
And so so we're trying to look at some of those areas in order to where can we fill those gaps as we plan down the road. But there was a lot of expressed need for indoor pursuits, fitness, wellness, but fitness and health seems to be the common denominator through all of them, whether you're walking on a trail, whether you're walking in a park, whether you're on a playground. It's really just about being active and we just trying to find different ways in order to provide those.
Now I know post-tornado, when we're talking about rebuilding, there was some talk about a community recreation type center with the city. People might be curious, is that still something that's being discussed with the city or developers, having a facility like that?
As of recently, it hasn't been much of a discussion right now. It was brought up.
It was an idea that people.
It was an idea, and something that's still being discussed. But as of right now, it hasn't really moved forward with anything at this point. So there's not a whole lot of development at this point as to where it's going.
But you've heard the input from people. And what
oh
they'd
yeah,
like to
yeah.
have.
I mean, there's again on the survey, indoor pool, fitness and wellness areas. Surprisingly, ice hockey and skating was one of those as well. So that was pretty interesting. But again, there's a difference between you have some people that might be like, this is what I want and this is what we need, and so it's our job to kind of figure
wants
those
and needs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how do you balance the numbers wanting this versus that? Obviously, you have limited budgets like every other department and everyone in the community. So what benefits most people? And then the unique things you mentioned, even like ice skating, not necessarily in the direct immediate region. So where do you go for those types of things if they don't have them here? So as you gathered the information from the survey, you utilized it to assess what you have, what people want. What happened to it after you got all this information to kind of crunch the numbers?
Well, as we crunched the numbers, some of it we pretty much knew, was going to come out the way that it did. One of the surprising statistics out of the whole thing, which, for me was a gauge of, where people, thought we were at this point. But 90% of respondents said that they placed maintaining our current parks and rec facilities either high or very high priority. So, for that to come out that high, even with your margin of error, it's still very high. So
right.
That stresses to us the importance of upkeeping the trails, the parks, our facilities and things like that. So we need to continue to focus on those things because that was probably the most blatant statistic that we got out of that.
Well, I know the city in recent years has put a lot of money in through the tax and so forth and renovating parks, updating things and so forth. Do you think this is a response to people saying we like what you've done in some of those parks?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Schiffer-Decker Pool was one of those items that came out of that, and just talking about the success that it's had the last few years, especially this year. It offers so many amenities, the slides, the play, so it attracts all ages as well as competition swimming. So it's certainly been something that you'd have to say was a huge positive that came out of that.
And when you look at the city park system, you have big parks like Schiffer-Decker that has the pool, it has the golf course, it has a lot of open space. Then you have smaller neighborhood parks. Are people still placing a value on having that smaller park in the midst of their neighborhood or their part of town?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, a lot of times when you're talking about parks and rec, that translates into quality of life, and so people tend to be in those areas in which they feel safe, that they have those amenities. Hey, we can walk down, right down here and get on the playground and enjoy it without having to go, a certain great distance or anything else like that. Plus, it helps real estate values and helps beautify, helps water conservation and drainage, things like that. So there's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, economic, environmental, and social.
So having that green space throughout the city in different locations has a big benefit.
Oh, yeah.
And Paul, a lot of your programs that you have, you're having programs bringing people to these different parks. You mentioned what's coming up this fall, but you utilize a lot of different parks throughout the year for your activities.
Yeah, we do. I mean, McClellan's is a really good park for us. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
It's
you almost feel like you're out in the So it's a great place to have a hayride. It's another great place. We're doing a new program called Family Camp Out, where a lot of people don't get to go outside of Joplin. They don't have time during the summer or whatnot. So we're doing a free family camp out at McClellan Park this fall too.
Tell me a little bit about that. Is it bring your own tent and we'll provide the space?
Correct. Yeah, we'll bring out the food. We're gonna provide hamburgers and hot dogs, chips, pop, s'mores. And it's up to them. Obviously they're going to have to provide their own tent.
Right.
We'll have like 6 or 7 fire pits. We'll have hay bales out there to sit around. We'll have some stuff out there for the families to play, like croquet, and we do have a disc golf course out there, because people can start setting up at noon and not that day. And so there's some daylight, they can
Before
do
the
some
sunset,
activities.
you can have some fun.
Right.
And what's the date for that?
That's October 25th. That's a Saturday. And one of the new things that we have is what do you call it? Jumbotron,
inflatable screen movie in the park.
Movie screen to go.
Yeah, it's huge. So we're going to be showing a movie for the families. We just haven't figured out which one we're going to go with yet. But it's just a fun thing for the families to do. Right now we have 20 families signed up, about 100 people coming. So and
that can grow between now and then.
It can grow, because we still have some time to go. So our parks, we try and do a lot of stuff in our parks. Obviously Landers Park is where we do 4th of July. And athletic complex, we do a lot of programs over there too, and we have a little park area there too. So we utilize our parks as much as we can.
So for people who are watching now and they want to find out more about the camping weekend or some of these fall things you've mentioned, you have a website.
Yes.
And that's joplinparks.org?
Yep. That's all of our information is posted on there. And then we always do daily updates on our Facebook page, and you just go to Joplin Parks and Recreation. If you like the page, then you start getting updates all the time on what we have to offer, and so.
Okay, so I know we have the website. We can pull it up at some point so you can see that. But through that website, you can find out a lot of information about the facilities. And people may not realize when they look at that, the Parks Department is much more than just parks. You have a lot of other services, even including cemeteries, that fall under the Parks Department.
We do.
Yeah.
So, you don't really talk much about that, but yeah. Yeah,
so
we do.
The vast use of the vast opportunities, as they're showing the page right now, a lot of links, a lot of places they can go, so current information, and perhaps even more importantly, the maps. How do we find these parks, where they're at?
Yes, I mean, we'll get questions all the time, because people want to put them in their GPS so they can find our parks. But yeah, we have the addresses and everything on our website so they can easily find those.
Yeah, and hopefully here in, I don't know, I'd say another month or two, that we're actually going to be updating our website to where it's going to be more interactive, so people will be able to actually have an account and register for programs online, and get a lot more detail in that regard as well.
So they don't have to come to the office, they don't have to mail anything, and they can go right online to take part in these programs. So a lot of things happening this fall with your outdoor events. I know you've had some traditional things in the past. You're continuing some of those things and starting some new programs for fall as well.
Yeah, and, we keep the traditional ones that are a favorite. We have obviously the hayride. I know in November we have our turkey shootout. That'll be our 16th annual turkey shootout, which is it's shooting basketballs.
Right.
I mean,
you're not bringing your gun, you're shooting the balls through the hoop.
And believe it or not, we do have people calling us like, "Well, when's that shoot?" And I'm like, "No, it's
What
basketballs."
kind of turkey shoot? Right.
And we do have, we have a lot of holiday events too coming that we're going to be doing in November and December. We're trying to organize a family feast relay where it's a 4-person relay race to eat four different sides of Thanksgiving dinner, and whoever wins gets to take home a turkey for Thanksgiving. So
come hungry.
That's something new that we're trying to
eat it after all that.
Yeah, right.
Turkey. And where would that be held?
Well, we got Memorial Hall back. Now that the school is back at the high school, so we're programming that facility again, and so we'll have. That's where that will be. We have another athletic manager who's going to be doing volleyball leagues and stuff like that over there, and we also have. We kind of contracted out when we're going to be doing fitness programs over there at Memorial Hall. So we're slowly getting back into Memorial Hall it'll be a nice, because we are short on indoor facilities, so it'll be nice to have something in the winter to offer programs.
So having that space free up after the high school left is really giving you some opportunities you had to kind of put on hold for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yep, you're absolutely.
Tying that together. And Memorial Hall has been a topic of discussion, and the City Council is looking at the future. So that's something that, would you say, is still kind of a fluid situation, is future down the road?
Yeah, I would say it's fluid. I mean, we gave a presentation on it a couple months ago, and then, you know, it came up during budget talks, and then at that point, the discussion for Memorial Hall Fund got tabled to a future time. So we haven't met with another work session on Memorial Hall yet, but it certainly has its challenges. It has some issues with the building,
the age of the building,
and the facility. So you know, while we'll be able to do some programs and things like that, it's still not going to be available for you know, the general public to come out and rent. At least not at this time, until we can decide what its fate may be.
Right, and that's something that ultimately will come to the City Council, budget decisions and things like that for the community, and tying that together. So something we'll continue to hear about, as they say, stay tuned.
Oh yeah,
what's going to happen with Memorial Hall. Well, when you look at the prospect, you mentioned quality of life, you know, people commenting about economic development in your department. Is it one that people will look at when they bring a company to town, or somebody, you know, what do you have for facilities? What do you have for our employees to use if we come to town?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, the thought process is a lot of times is you know, if we have some jobs, then we can start building quality of life around it, where we try to look at it in such a way that let's build a place where in which people want to live, and then that would help attract more people to town. So, you know, quality of life is really a big deal to us, you know, and again, we're looking at the social, the environmental, and the economic aspects to that. I mean, you know, we have a golf course which helps bring people into town. You know, we get minor league baseball going at some point. That'll help, you know, provide an economic driver. But it's just a wide array of recreational pursuits, and you know, we're trying to go more from a custodially type of driven approach to more benefit driven. And here's some ways that, you know, that you can benefit. This is why we love Joplin. This is why we want people to come here, and, you know, look at what we have to offer.
Now, you mentioned minor league baseball, and I'm sure the public's interested. We've heard about the Joe Becker project. You're actually getting into the stage of let's build something now.
Right, well, yeah, in the stage of build something, but before we did that, we had to tear some things down. So that's what's been going on out there right now. They're leveling some parking lots, the whole backstop area, the press box, everything's been taken down at this point. So,
but we're still looking at spring to have minor league baseball out there?
Yep, we're looking at I believe it's May. Yep. When, you know, we hope to have that first pitch out there, and we're just real excited about the whole thing. Going to have 2,400 fixed seats, capacity for 4,000 people, with some picnic on the berms and things like that, 3 concession stands. So I think it's going to be really exciting. So
it's going to be a totally new facility.
Oh,
if people have been to the stadium in the past, they're going to be a surprise when they see what it looks like then. And of course, that ties into promotions, bringing people to the community, having a team that people can follow. You know, you're talking about that. Why are we going to come to Joplin? There'll be a team there to follow for people to see.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know, it's just one of those things. It's, you know, I don't know, people may boo me or whatever, but I'm a Royals fan and you're a Cardinals fan, so.
No.
But you know, that helps, you know, bring people together. It gives them sort of, you know, it's just, people say, oh, it's just baseball and things like that, but there's more to it than that. And with minor league baseball, the focus tends to be a lot more on families and sort of your experience there. You know, also alongside of, you know, hey, we want a team here that's winning and it's fun and it's great, but it's really, you know, to help provide more of that experience and enjoyable time, have a good evening or a good day, you know, on a weekend, things like that, to you know, just again enjoy the outdoors.
So the
and
entertainment
the
aspect is family entertainment. So you use the word family. Is family a key to when you're looking a lot of your planning your events as well? You know, what can we do for families? You mentioned family camping, people of all ages then.
Oh yeah, I mean that, especially the special events. Obviously those are all mostly geared towards families. You know, and a lot of the stuff will come up on our own, or otherwise we'll just go to other Parks and Recreation websites and see what they're doing and say, oh man, that might work here in Joplin. But definitely the family, we like certain, not that we don't like serving individuals, but the family special events are, I mean, you just like seeing, like daddy-daughter date night, for instance. Right. You see that, and you know, it's a great program. We've been doing that for 16 years, and you know, and but Yeah, I mean, the families are a great asset to Joplin in the Parks and Rec department.
And when you mentioned something like family daddy-daughter date night, people remember when their kid is this tall, now they're in high school or beyond.
It makes me feel old.
Yeah, you see those.
Really old.
Yeah. But that's the family memories and tying things
yep.
together along those lines.
It does.
And from the youngsters to the oldsters or senior citizens, you also have programs that the older members of the community can get involved with.
Yeah, like I said before, we have Grant Perkey, he's our athletic manager, and we're going to be offering adult fitness classes, adult volleyball. We do a lot of adult athletics, but the fitness is something brand new, and so we have a couple of individuals who are going to be teaching Zumba and some afternoon fitness classes, and then we have the co-ed volleyball that we're going to be doing at Memorial Hall, and obviously we have our adult soccer, our adult.
You have these leagues of athletic events. And so forth.
Right, yeah.
And you mentioned the tennis courts earlier. People may not, if they like tennis, you have some very nice facilities for them to utilize.
Yeah, we do. It's, a great complex. Some people, I think maybe at first it might seem like, oh, it's a country club or things like that. I don't want to go play there, but it's pretty cheap. Adult membership is $75 a year.
Yes.
And so, if you spread that over 12 months, it's $6.25 a month.
Yeah,
so, it's, and it's a way to get outside, and, it's maybe a little more individual sport, but, you can play, doubles and get some people out there, and we have some groups that come out there and play on a frequent basis. So,
now, do you offer lessons for people and things with those different sports as well?
We do. We have, we contract out to a tennis pro, and so, during the summertime is pretty much our busy time of lessons and leagues and tournaments, but he goes into the fall months and the spring months too, offering programs for everybody. So it's really come a long way. So, the complex has been open, I believe, 6 years now, and the tennis program is really it's getting there.
And earlier you mentioned golf, and Schifferdecker Golf Course has a long history, and I understand it's also being looked at now. The future, what you were going to do with it.
Yeah, it's 92 years old or so, and so we're coming up on 100 years here pretty soon. But you're talking about pretty much the second oldest municipal golf course west of the Mississippi. It's along historic Route 66, and so sometimes that kind of people forget about that, but there's a great story behind the course, and so. But also with being so old, there's things that also have to be done and
maintenance
kept
alone
up.
for an older facility.
So we're going through some budget challenges on that and trying to come up with some ideas and areas where we can improve and become more efficient and try to increase more revenue. And then along the lines with that, we're hopefully going to get a pro at some point if council will approve it to. It's one of the few areas in our department where we don't have really any programming or lessons or anything else like that. And since golf's a lifetime sport, and we're not the only courses feeling this, but there's a big gap between youth and maybe 50 years old where
people who've been playing forever and the young crowd's not stepping
right.
in.
and so we need to provide more opportunities like that. So those are areas that we're looking to improve in. With Schifferdecker Golf Course.
You mentioned the history of the course, and you mentioned 92 years, and you reacted as well. People may not realize that it's been that long since this course started. People had some forward-looking vision 92 years ago, and they said, "Let's have a golf course in Joplin."
Yeah, again, there's some great stories behind it. I think with the golf course, we probably need to do a better job of telling a story of what it's really about. A lot of people don't know who Kai Laffoon is, but he was a pro golfer that played there a lot, and he come out and not tell anybody who he was and hustle people out of $50 on the course and things like that. So there's a lot of history there that you're talking about the Ozark Amateurs, part of that as well. So there's a lot that goes along with it, and there's some things we like to share that story.
Share that story, let the community know more about it. Well, community input, you mentioned the survey as kind of a formal means of input. Do you both continue to get calls from people who are interested, like when you have programs or people call you, they say, I see you're doing this, I came from this town, they're doing that. What kind of citizen feedback do you receive?
Well, I think we receive all kinds, through email, through phone calls. But I think for the most part, we try to solicit the feedback. When we have a tiny soccer program going on with 175 kids playing soccer, Paul's out there, and so that's engaging the community. And so sometimes it's easy to throw a piece of paper out there and say, hey, fill this out, or get on SurveyMonkey, or do this. But I don't think any of them really kind of replace what Paul and Grant and the other staff do, is that we're out there trying to engage and get that verbal one-on-one, personal feedback.
So, Paul, it's important to meet the participants in the programs you have, hear what their wants are.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can answer. I mean, when you're there, I mean, it's not like you're talking to them on the phone. I mean, you can answer their questions. You can help them, direct them to where to go. And the one-on-one is just, they put a face. They always, oh, you're Paul. Well,
you're the person that I signed up with,
just talk to you. So, but yeah, it's great. It's great to meet the families and everything, because I've been in Parks and Rec in Joplin for 15 years, and so I've met a lot of families and kids who were doing my programs when they were 3, and now they're 18, right. And so it's fun to see the families grow up. So
you can see the community grow as the family grows, and tying all of that together. Well, someone who's watching today would like to contact the department, ask questions. I always mention the pages, the Facebook, and the website. How else can they reach you? What's some ways to find out what's happening?
For the golf course, we have some emails that are set up. It's golf@joplinmo.org. I believe the other one's recreation@joplinmo.org.
Right.
And so they can reach out by email. Facebook is a good way to reach out to us. You can certainly call.
And your offices, if they wanted to stop by. And
the Parks and Rec office is at the Joplin Athletic Complex building, and that's at 3301 West 1st Street. I mean, you can obviously call us. I mean, our phone number at the complex is 625-4750, and we have a front desk staff that's great, and they'll answer all your questions that you have.
Great. There's a lot of ways to get the information out, which is one way to get more people into the parks and to utilizing the facilities. So a lot of things happening with the park system. We're talking about fall, but I'm sure you're planning now already ahead to next summer. What else can we do for the summer programs? Is that the situation in planning for your activities?
Oh, we're always planning for for the
next year.
It's you need to get ahead of the head of the game. Because usually winter, that's your slow months. I mean, obviously we have our special events and some winter programs, but it's a great time to clean everything up and start thinking of some new ideas. We offered a day camp program for the first time in 5 years, right. So that came back, and there's improvements we're going to do there and everything. And we're thinking about Schiffer-Decker Pool is such a great asset to us. One thing we're lacking is an aquatics class, so we're looking into something like that for next year. So there's a lot of opportunities that we're looking into, and this is the perfect time to get ready for next year.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank both of you for visiting with us today on Newsmakers, sharing some information with our viewers.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.